This video covers notes 11.4 over factoring polynomials day 1. So, to recap factoring in general, because this is the first time you've seen factoring, what we did on the multiplying day was we took a term here and a term here. We filled in this box, we combined our like terms, and we wrote our answer as 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. Today, you're being given the answer and we are working backwards towards the terms. Now, there's a couple different things that we need to do or can use in order to factor. The first thing that we use is our GPS. So in real life, a GPS helps you get from one point to another. So you start at some place and you end at another place. So we use our GPS here to guide us through factoring. G stands for GCF, which was the lesson we did on 11.3, where you are looking for a common term that is in all three terms. Now, for these examples that we're looking at today, we won't really have much of GCFs because we're trying to help you see the factoring process in itself. Then P stands for product. In math, the word product means multiply. So you're going to take your first term and your last term, and they are written in the box, and multiply them for the product. So this comes from first times last. And then S is for sum. If you remember, when we multiplied, we got 3x squared. There were two terms here that we added to get a total of 5x, and so we need to figure out what those products are, and then a 2 that was at the end. So the way that we figure out what fits in the box is we take our product of 6 and we write out all of the ways that we can get to 6. So 6 is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Now I'm looking for one of these sets that's going to add to 5x. So if I add 1 plus 6 is not 5, but 2 plus 3 is 5. So I have a positive 2x and a positive 3x that were added together to get a total of 5x. Now from here, we don't need this part. From here, remember we are working backwards, so we're trying to figure out these two pieces. And remember that whatever term is here is multiplied to this box and to this box. So what we're going to do is factor out the GCF. So we're figuring out what term went here that was multiplied to both terms. So I'm going to see what they have in common. So 3x squared and 2x, they don't have any common numbers, so 3 and 2 don't really share any numbers, so we can use a 1 as a placeholder, but you don't have to. And then x squared and x share an x. So there was an x that was multiplied into both of these boxes. Looking here, there's a number or a term here that was multiplied through both of those boxes, so we're going to factor out our GCF. 3x and 2 do not share any x's and they don't share any numbers, so we use a 1 as a placeholder. Going horizontally, we're trying to figure out what was here that was multiplied to both boxes. So 3x squared and 3x share a 3 as well as an x. And then going horizontally this way, 2x and 2 share a 2. So to double check your work, something that you can do very quickly to do a very quick check, you can take this term times this term and make sure it fits in the first box, and this term times this term to make sure it fits in the last box. So if you just check the first and the last boxes, you can do a quick check to make sure you got your factors right. So my factors are x plus 1 and 3x plus 2. And that's what I started with to get the 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 as my final answer. So problem 2, 5b squared minus 17b plus 6. These 17 is prime, 5 is prime, so there is not a GCF. Now, you might want to check with your teacher. Some of the teachers are wanting their students to put 1 because 1 is common in everything. But I'm telling my students to write none, because if they write none, then that reminds you that there is nothing that you need to take out. Whereas if you write 1, sometimes 1 can look like a 4 or a 7 or something weird, and then you might feel like you needed to take something out. So remember, the first and the last terms are the things that when we multiply, they go straight from the box to our answer. So when we're working backwards, they go straight from our beginning to our box. Then we multiply them for our product. So 30b squared, because that's first times last. And then our sum is in the center, so negative 17b goes for the sum in the center. So I'm going to write out all of the ways we can get to 30. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit and show you something in the calculator, and I'm sorry if it takes the calculator to pull up. But in your calculator, something that you can do is if you're struggling to come up with all of the factors, you can take your calculator and try 30 divided by 1. So once it pulls up here in a second, there it goes. We'll try 30 divided by 1. And this does divide out nicely, so I write what I divided and what the answer was as my factors. Then I just go down the line, 30 divided by 2, and I get 15. So I write 2 and 15. Again, I'm writing the number I divided and the result. 30 divided by 3, and I have 3 and 10. If you get something that is a decimal, like 4, we do not write decimals. So do not write decimals, do not write fractions, okay? So 30 divided by 4, we would not write down because it doesn't work. 30 divided by 5, and we get 6. Keep going down the line, 30 divided by 6, and we get 5. Now, once you've written a list and you get back to wherever you started, then that's where you would stop filling in your list. So I had 5 and 6 already listed, so I can stop here. So now I'm looking for a way to get to negative 17. So if I add, I get 31, 17, 13, and 11. So none of those were a negative 17, but I had a positive 17 here. So let me see if I could figure out how to turn that into a negative 17. Well, if both of these are positive, and positive 2 and positive 15 gave me positive 17, let me think about if I did negatives. So negative 2 and negative 15, well, that would add to negative 17. So negative 2 and negative 15 are going to be my factors. From here, we factor out our GCFs again. So something that is in both of these, 5 and negative 2, they don't share any numbers, but they do share a b. Then I go vertically this way. Negative 15b and 6 share a 3. They do not share a 6. And then for signs, wherever you're writing the number, you follow whatever is closest to the outside. So to show you with highlighting, this term is based off of this because that's the closest box to where I'm writing. This number follows this box because that's closest to where I'm writing. This number would follow this box as well because that's the closest box to where I'm writing my factor. And this factor will follow this box because that's the closest. So if I take all of these away, this 3 will be a negative because it is closest to the negative 15 box where I am writing. Before we even go through any other numbers, I want to show you to make sure you understand this factor is going to be positive because the box closest to it is positive. This factor is going to be negative because the box closest to it is a negative. So you follow these boxes. This 6 will never impact any of your signs. So now going horizontally, 5 and negative 15 share a 5, b squared and b share a b. And then negative 2b and 6 share a 2 because they are both even. Now let me warn you, when you're trying to figure out what they share, the more the more work that you've done with GCFs, so like finishing that 11-3 assignment and making sure you understood it, the faster identifying your GCFs will be for you. But keep in mind, some people look at 2 and 6 and they say, oh, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then they put 3 on the outside. So 2 things to say about that. First, make sure when you're finding your GCFs that you remember your GCF has to be in both terms. If I write a 3 here, I'm saying that 3 can come out of 2, but that's not possible. So whatever you're writing here has to be divisible or be able to be divided by both terms. The second thing is, remember, if you do a quick check, if you wrote 3 here, you would notice that negative 3 times 3 does not give you 6. So that's why you do just a really quick check to make sure you're doing things right. So quick check, 5b and b is 5b squared. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. So those are my factors. And if I do the quick check, I will notice if any of my factors are off if I didn't find a GCF correctly. So I'm going to speed it up just a little bit because we're getting the hang of this. So first term and last term get written into my box. They get multiplied for my product. One thing I did not say is that 5 is prime, and so I noticed that none of the other numbers are divisible by 5, so I do not have a GCF. My sum is in the center, so my sum is a negative 5y. So I'm going to write all the ways to multiply to 24. 24 divided by 1 is 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 24 divided by 3 is 8. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 24 divided by 5 is a decimal, so I don't write it down. 24 divided by 6 is 4, but I already have that listed, so I don't have to write it. So from here, I'm going to start adding. I'm trying to add to negative 5. So this gives me 25, 13, 11, and 10. None of those got me to 5. So let me see if I can start or subtract. 1 minus 24 is negative 23. 2 minus 12 is negative 10. 3 minus 8 is a negative 5. Oh, well, that's what I needed. And so I said 3 minus 8 got me to negative 5, so I have a 3 and a minus 8. And now I just take out my GCFs. So 6 and 3 share a 3 and a y. Negative 8 and negative 4 share a 4, and it is negative because the box closest to where I'm writing my answer is negative. 6y and 6y squared and negative 8y share a 2 and a y, and negative 3y and negative 4 share a 1. Quick check, 2y and 3y multiply to 6y squared. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4, so I have 3y minus 4 and 2y plus 1. Problem 4, 11 and 5 are both prime, so there are no GCFs. So I write first and last term in my box and multiply them for my product. If you notice, I'm saying that I'm writing these terms as I'm writing them, and then I multiply to get my product. My sum is in the center, so 11C follows through. So factors of 60, ways that I can multiply to 60. 60 divided by 1 is 60. 60 divided by 2 is 30. 60 divided by 3 is 20. 60 divided by 4 is 15. 60 divided by, did I do that right? Yeah. 60 divided by 5 is 12. 60 divided by 6 is 10. 60 divided by 7 is a decimal. Divided by 8 is a decimal. Divided by 9 is a decimal. Divided by 10 is 6, but that's already listed. So now I'm trying to get to 11. 1 plus 60 is 61, 32, 23, 19, 17, and 16. None of those got me to 11. So now I'm trying to subtract. 1 minus 60 is negative 59, negative 28. That would be negative 17. This would be negative 11. Okay, so I'm getting close. So let's see. I need a positive 11. So what if I do 15 minus 4? That would get me to 11. So I have a 15 and a minus 4. So now I can take out GCFs. 12c squared and negative 4c share a 4 and a c. 15c and negative 5 share a 5. 12c squared and 15c share a 3 and a c. Negative 4c and negative 5 don't share anything, so we put a 1 as a placeholder, and it's negative because the 4 is negative. Quick check, 3c and 4c is 12c squared. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5, so I have 4c plus 5 and 3c minus 1. Problem 5, I have 4, negative 19 and negative 5. 19 and 5 are both prime and they're not divisible into each other, so I would put none. I write my first and last term in the box and multiply for my product. And my sum is negative 19. So I'm going to write all the factors of 20. 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3 gets me a decimal, 4 gives me 5. 5 is the next number, but it's already listed, so now I'm trying to get to 19. So if I add, I get 21, 12, and 9. That didn't get me to 19, so let me subtract. 1 minus 20, oh, that's negative 19. So I have a 1 and a minus 20. So from here, I'm going to take out GCFs. Vertically, 4x squared and negative 20x share a 4 and an x. 1x and negative 5 don't share anything, so we use 1 as a placeholder. 4x squared and 1x don't share any numbers, but they do share an x. Negative 20x and negative 5 share a negative 5. Quick check, 4x squared, negative 5, so my factors are 4x plus 1 and x minus 5. Problem 6, 7, and 2 are both prime, so there are no GCFs. I rewrite first and last terms in the box, multiply for my product. Sum is in the center. 12 is 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. 4 gets us back to 3, and that's already listed. So I can add. 1 plus 12 is 13. 2 plus 6 is 8. 3 plus 4 is 7, and that's what my sum is. So I need a 3 and a 4. And then take out my GCF. So 6k squared and 4k share a 2 and a k. 3k and 2 share a 1, because they don't really share anything, so we use it as a placeholder. 6k squared and 3k share a 3 and a k. 4k and 2 share a 2. Quick check, 2k and 3k is 6k squared. 2 and 1 is 2. So 2k plus 1 and 3k plus 2 are my factors.